Hello and good morning slash good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nirvana Tari, and I'm here with the one and only Bevi Kothare, who is getting her PhD in gerontology and leadership with a focus on technology, while also working full-time as general manager at Enable Care Management. Hi, Bevi. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. I'm so excited for this conversation. We've been talking about this for so long, and I'm really glad that it's finally here.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Perfect timing for the new year and starting things all new. So
Yes.
everybody at home knows the deal. We're going to go ahead and just kick things off with our lightning round. So tell me, what is one app that older adults actually love using?
I'm going to actually go with FaceTime. I think
I love it.
older adults love to just communicate, and it's fast.
I love it. That's such a good answer. I love FaceTime myself. So yeah.
Yeah.
Next one is, when do you think families should call a geriatric care manager?
Yesterday.
Ah,
Yeah.
so good. Honestly, dang it, that should have been the title of this podcast.
Yeah. Too often people call us too late or in the middle of crisis. So I think it's
Yeah.
if
Don't
you're
let
even thinking about it, you should have done it yesterday.
Yeah, okay, that's really good. So today and literally right now,
Right
anytime.
now.
So tell me one thing every tech founder building for seniors needs to know.
I think it's important to know if are they building for one senior or are they building for them all? Because it's very different. They need to know, are they building for their grandmother or all the grandmothers?
Such a good point. Such a
Yeah,
good point. That's why user experience matters so much.
absolutely.
Best advice you've gotten from an older adult client. I'm excited for this one.
Oh, honestly, it's just been enjoy the mundane,
Oh,
enjoy the simple things, enjoy the
absolutely.
wake ups and then, regular things because those are the things that we're going to miss.
Oh, I love it. That's yeah, the little things that is what we take for granted.
Hmm.
Um, what technology are you most excited about for aging adults? And you can go like crazy with this one. It could be like nothing like it exists.
Honestly, I think the transportation technology is going to be very cool. I know we're just getting started with like Waymos and robo taxis and Zooks that are slowly going around, but I think 5, 10 years from now, when it's really perfected, it's going to really help older adults really move and go anywhere they want. Right now, they have to really rely on Uber or friends or family members. So I think I'm really excited for that.
It's so important for access.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. What surprised you most about working in memory care? Because I know you have some experience doing that too.
Just how different it is and how when people are at their raw, with as memory care, oftentimes with Alzheimer's and different dementias,
Mhm.
the core of your being is what remains at the very end. And
Mhm.
to see people at their core, it's sometimes really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. If you could fix one thing about aging services tomorrow,
What would that be? The fragmentation of
like,
it all.
here's my list.
Yes, the fragmentation, honestly,
Mhm.
it's everything is just it's all spread out. There's no central way, and there isn't a perfect way. Everybody's kind of approaching it differently.
Yeah,
So to be able to kind of combine it and understand what is the right path,
yeah.
that would be great.
That was one of my like original goals with starting this podcast, was because I realized there's no like resource hub where
Mhm.
people can go to and find out like everything that they need to know A to Z. And obviously I'm very far away from creating something like that, but I think that's like my goal and my dream is to like have something where people can be like, oh, I need this, so I can go listen to this podcast, and I need this, and I can go
Right.
read this publication. But yeah, so important.
And can I add one more to that? I would say insurance. It's
Oh
hot mess.
goodness, we're gonna open that can of worms. I'm just kidding.
I'm just gonna say that one word, and then we're gonna move on.
We'll end it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone knows exactly what you mean when they hear that. So yeah. And last one, let's wrap it up. Best way to convince a resistant parent that they need help. I know this is a tough one.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Honestly, a lot of times it's bringing in a third party because
Mm.
people don't like to listen to their friends and family, right? They
Yep.
know them, they know what their weaknesses are,
Yep.
but sometimes it does take that doctor or geriatric care manager to come in and kind of be that authority and be like, we need some help. Let's talk about how we can help.
That's such a good point. I'm really glad that you actually brought that up in the way that you did as well, because so often, like the work that you do is so important because it allows for family caregivers to return to their role as a son or a daughter or a wife or a husband, because we lose that so often when we become caregivers. And it's really heartbreaking because it's important to maintain that relationship, especially in those last few years, that you
Mhm.
know it's those last few years, and losing that and kind of, yeah. So I salute you and think that the work that you do really, really matters
Thank you.
every single minute. Of course. So, Miss Bevi, almost Dr. Kothare, you've been a social worker,
Mhm.
worked in assisted living, memory care, led tech companies, and now you manage geriatric care management while finishing up your PhD. Walk
Yes.
us through that journey. What connects all of these different roles for you?
Oh boy, that's a hard question. But it's always kind of been the end goal has been the same,
Mm,
is to make a difference in the lives of older adults and people that maybe cannot help themselves. Whether when I was social worker, I really worked at with the lower income population, folks that really had very, very little money, and how do we use the services that are available to help make a difference?
mhm,
You know, with working memory care, working at PACE, working with individuals that can no longer make decisions,
mhm,
and then moving to tech. You know, working as a social worker, it's very one-on-one, right? Let me help this one
right.
person today in this 1 hour that I'm here.
Mhm,
When I moved to tech, it was really about how can I make a difference with a product, helping multiple people, hundreds of people, thousands of people.
mhm. Scale.
So I think that has always been the same, and it's very true even right now as a care manager, and helping lead that team. It's how do we make a difference with what we
Mhm.
have, whether it's financially, whether it's resource wise, whether it's location wise, what's available to that person.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, I guess, the underlying driving factor is help, and how to kind of make someone else's life that like just 1% easier, even whether
Absolutely.
it's one person or whether it's thousands of people.
Right.
I love that. I really, really do. This is more of just like a just so people can know, but for someone who's maybe never heard of geriatric care management,
Mhm.
what is it exactly? And I know we already asked when someone needs you, but really, when does specifically someone need you?
Yeah, absolutely. So geriatric care management can be a lot of things, and it's a lot of things to different people. But to think of it as really having an expert guide you through whatever that individual or that family member is going through.
Mm,
And that's why we say yesterday, because
mm,
as soon as you think this person needs help,
right,
they they've probably needed that help yesterday.
right, right.
And
Absolutely.
oftentimes people come to us when it's too late, when they've had a crisis, when they've had a fall, when they're in the hospital or diagnosis, and we're kind of helping bridge those gaps and put a plan in place. But
Right.
really, as a care manager and as an expert in the field, I would say do this ahead of time. Do
Mm,
this when you're not in crisis. We don't want to be at the hospital taking notes, because that path really is not just about medical care, but
mhm,
it's about happiness,
mm,
right? Like, what
mhm.
does this person want in over the next 5 years or 5 months or even 5 days, which may be their last?
Yeah.
So, how do we plan for that? And let's do that in a happy environment. Let's do that when everybody's calm. Exactly. Um,
Totally.
we really like to think of geriatric care management as having the adult daughter for hire.
Oh.
And we love adult sons. We have great men on our team as well. But typically, that caregiver role statistically does fall upon women. And
Mhm,
it's that adult daughter that assumes that responsibility.
mhm.
And being the oldest adult daughter, maybe I have that in me, but
Right.
we try to be that professional adult daughter.
I love.
We're we're no way replacing family, but as you said earlier, we want to have your family be family, right?
Right, right,
We don't
right.
want them to be that caregiver or that decision maker or, kind of that person in the chaos. Let us handle the chaos, and you can go back to being family.
I love that framing of it. Your adult daughter for hire. That's something that I've never heard of it as, like, phrased in that way. And that's really, really perfect. And honestly, I feel like we could have a whole nother podcast on the whole gender roles and the gap
Oh
between
yeah.
caregivers. And because it's even something that we see at Care Yaya as well. Like there's people like just the people who are like even managing the care for mom or dad,
Hmm.
even when it is like the son doing it, it's the son's wife who's managing the care. So it's the daughter-in-law that's working that as well. And of course, there's amazing, amazing sons out there who are doing care
Absolutely. And I
management.
don't want to take any credit away from great sons and brothers who are managing the care, but I'm just speaking statistically. It's about,
Yes, 100%. I'm
80%
right
of
there with you.
those.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, So I want to pivot a little bit and go into tech and some of your research, which focuses on aging and innovation,
Mhm,
specifically how technology can change lives for older adults.
mhm.
Um, But you've kind of seen a consistent pattern from what we've talked about, is that tech companies are building products for older adults without actually including them in the design process.
Mhm.
So why does this keep happening, and what can we do?
Yeah. So I think oftentimes tech companies are started with one experience, right? It might be the founder, the CEO, who says, "Hey, I have this one problem,
Mhm,
and I feel like everybody has this problem, so let's solve for it," which
mhm,
is often true,
mhm,
correct? Like there, people share problems, yes, um, but they kind of approach it in a single lane highway, right? There's with older adults and all the different things that are happening. There's a lot of exits and there's a lot of bumps and different things that could be involved.
mhm,
So I think it's important for founders and tech executives to always involve older adults because
mhm.
they're not all the same. They're just like you and I. They're people. Everybody's
Absolutely.
very, very different. So products that are meant for older adults should really be inclusive of all different
Mhm.
types. A lot of times people just do, focus groups that might include 5 or 10 people in the initial phase, maybe in the design phase once or twice in research. But that's it. That could be like 3 to 5 hours in the entire development span of several years.
Yeah, no,
So
that's such a good point.
I think it's really important to have kind of that inclusivity built in all the way through, whether you have somebody on your board, whether somebody on staff, include them inside, right? Have them be
Mhm,
on your design team, have
mhm.
them sit in on kind of the mock-ups and so forth. So
Yeah.
it's important to have that firsthand knowledge. And also people from the industry. It's not
Mhm,
just about older adults, but people that have, social workers, nurses, doctors, care managers, people that have kind of been in this world and see it in all different shapes.
it takes a village. It really, really does. They mean that when they say that.
Yeah.
No, that's a really great point, because it's it's about the people that sort of like also see that on a day-to-day basis as well, and like have that expertise and that knowledge. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that way, but I love that. I love that framing. So give me sort of a concrete example. What's a product or app in the aging space that had potential and then kind of completely missed the mark because older adults weren't in the room? If you can think of one.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I was actually at like a tech presentation, and
Mhm.
next to me was a booth, and it was a gentleman. And I started talking to him, and he said, "Well, I started this product because my father had dementia.
Mm,
He would often leave the house. So he was pretty good at home, but he would just leave the house in the middle of the night and we couldn't find him. And this was a little bit before iPhones and, everybody had Apple Watches and so forth.
right,
So what
right.
he did was he built a pretty big bracelet for his father.
Mm,
And he said, I solved it. My father would wear this bracelet all the time. And
mm,
if he ever wandered away from me or if we were out, I could track him. And that was it. So it was great. So I wanted to mass market it. Okay, that's great. So he's solving for that one problem.
right.
But if he had spoken with anybody in the industry or somebody that worked with dementia, different types of dementia, he
Mm,
would know that, especially towards the end of dementia or in those middle stages, they're not going to want to wear a big product on their wrist.
yep. Yeah.
Especially like, say, a woman who's probably, maybe wasn't used to wearing a watch or didn't wear bracelets. You
Mm,
can't introduce something new, a bulky thing on there. And so,
right.
unfortunately, I actually ended up following that product for a while, and it
Yeah.
did end up failing because he didn't kind of include other scenarios. It worked well for him because his father had worn a watch his whole life. So
Uh,
swapping out that watch for a bracelet, like
mhm.
a bulky bracelet, worked
Right.
just fine.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you thought kind of outside the box, maybe a device that was hidden in a shoe or in the back of their shirt,
Yeah.
that would have gone a lot farther. So
Yeah.
just
It's
one
very
concrete
built in a
example.
vacuum. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. It's
yeah.
um that's such a great point, because I was like, "Oh my god, genius." Like tracking, like that's like so important, and like, especially when the everyday tracking devices weren't like just like available and like
Mhm.
on us. Um but yeah, that's so interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Your brain works in such an interesting way, because you see the problem before it actually becomes a I love it. I guess that's why you're getting your PhD right now. So yeah, when a founder comes up to you and tells you, I'm building for older adults,
Mhm.
what questions do you ask them to figure out if they're doing it right? Like what, or I guess maybe if there's like a framework that founders can start asking themselves.
Yeah, I think it kind of really goes back to what problem are you trying to solve,
Mhm,
right? What are you building this product for? Are you building this product for seniors? Are you building this for caregivers? And are you building it for more than one? I think that's always my
mhm.
number one thing.
Yep.
Because can this be replicated towards different types of older adults? They don't
Right.
all fit in the same box. There's different categories, there's ethnicities, there's cultural differences, there's financial differences, there's education differences.
Mm.
If they're doing a focus group in the Bay Area where I'm in, it's going to be very different than a focus group in rural Arkansas. Let's be
Mm.
perfectly
Totally.
honest.
Yeah.
So, who are they building this product for? And can it? Because with tech, it's all about scale, right? It's about moving and it's going nationwide, worldwide. But in order to do that, in scale from the very beginning, are they building this to scale? Would be my.
Right. Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, if you're not, then again, you're just building in that vacuum and you're building it for your grandma or grandpa or aunt or
Yeah,
uncle.
which could be fine, and it could work for a handful of people, and that's what you want. That's perfect. But a lot of the tech folks that I do speak with and the founders, they are really building for scale.
Building for scale. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I guess I kind of want to pivot, or I guess kind of on the same track, but the digital divide, let's break it down for our audience. When we talk about the digital divide and aging, what are we actually talking about? And
Yeah.
is it just about access to devices and the internet, or like, what does it really mean?
Yeah, so the digital divide, that term has really been around for some time. And originally it started off as this lack of older adults are just not using technology. They're not
Mm.
using smartphones, they're not using computers. And then you have a group of younger people who are. So there's an actual divide, correct?
Mhm.
And over time, over the last 10, 15 years, we're seeing that it's become a little bit more gray because
Mhm.
people that were maybe, were still working in their 90 in 1990 are now older adults, and they've been around technology. They're using it a little bit, but they're not using it to the same capacity that maybe younger adults are.
Right.
So it's a little bit gray right now, but that divide still is there because people use technology differently.
Mm.
The very first question was, "What's the number one app?" Right? If you go to the App Store, I bet you it's not going to be FaceTime. Uh,
Right.
it's probably some kind of social media or music app because different generations use technology differently. So
Mhm.
right now, older adults, the ones that I interact with nearly on a daily basis,
Mhm.
they're using it more for a communication tool. They're using it more of kind of like a Swiss Army knife where they're doing it to do something else that can't be done other ways, right? That's the
Right.
only way we can call somebody now is typically through a smartphone.
Mhm.
Landlines are hard to come by, and most people don't even have them anymore.
Mm. Right.
When you talk to a younger person, what are you using your phone for? They're probably on some kind of social media. They're communicating in a different way. Maybe they're communicating with people they don't even know. It's for a
Mhm.
much different audience.
Yeah, they're doing it because they have to, not because they necessarily want to. Um,
Exactly.
that's so interesting. You've got me thinking about something else now. So, you mentioned earlier, like some older adults are familiar with technology and have been using technology now. So, fast forward 50 years, when Gen Z and millennials are sort of the older adults, and Gen Alpha is starting to become the older adults. Do you think that that digital divide is still going to exist? Like, do you think that there'll always be such a thing as a digital divide?
I think it will exist in a different way. Obviously, millennials and Gen Z and everybody in later generations has kind of grown up with technology. But there's still things that even I, as a millennial, don't use online because I'm like, oh, that's just not for me. I don't need that. I don't need to have that app. I don't need to do that. Does that say that I can't do it? No, I can probably do it. I can download it and do it, but I
Yeah,
just don't want to.
yeah,
And I think that will still be happening as I get older. In 50 years, there's going to be things where I'm like, I really just don't care to do that. And that divide will still be there. But for things like we talked about, maybe transportation, when there's a car that's going to come pick me up and take me somewhere,
yeah.
well, I'm going to have to do it and I'll know how to do it. So
Right,
I think
right.
the divide will be a little bit even more gray, but I think it will still be there.
Yeah, totally. So there's this sort of assumption that if we just give older adults iPads and teach them Zoom,
Mhm.
problem solved. Why is that like sort of an incomplete and like a harmful view, even potentially?
Yeah, there's so many different things wrong with that view, right? First of all, you take an iPad out of the house, and unless it's got on cellular, it's kind of a brick, right? You're not
Mhm.
connected to anything. So
Yeah,
first and foremost, you need that internet connection, that cellular connection to
yeah.
work anywhere. And
Hmm.
Zoom is just one app, right? It's a great app. It did wonders, especially during COVID, in connecting people. But there's just so much more about technology, and
Mm.
we often focus on technology just as smartphones, but
Mhm.
it's a lot more than that. It's health technology, it's transportation technology, even medication technology these days, right? So everything is kind of wrapped around this world of technology that older adults are having to become accustomed to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's very, very, the whole like Wi-Fi versus like cellular thing and like having access to that. I do hope that that's something I feel like that won't be a problem. Hopefully when we're older adults, like that'll be something that everyone will have access to at all times and like be constantly connected. So it's cool to see how like technology has evolved over time. And like, if we were to go back 50 years, what that looked like and what the technology then was like, that older
Mhm.
adults were less open to accepting and like
Yeah.
have fully been integrated into everybody's lives now.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so kind of like staying on this whole like digital divide track, what's the human cost of the digital divide that people miss? And what happens when older adults are getting left behind? We talk about this loneliness epidemic and like
Mhm.
all that stuff, but like, what is the true cost of it?
I think this is where we often lose people, and even financially. If you go right now to your grocery store, just the other day I saw where it was a loaf of bread and it said $7.99. First of all, that's crazy for a loaf of bread.
What?
But yes, so you have your loaf of bread, but then there's one more tag underneath it, and it says if you scan, you're going to get it for $6.99. Okay, great. But now if you scan it and clip it in your app, you get that piece of bread for $4.99. So, if it was really an older adult
Yeah.
who maybe does not have that cellular connection, you said they just have an iPad, they're not going to be able to connect and be that member to scan
Mhm.
it in the first place,
Yep.
or are they going to be clipping it later on to a digital coupon to get it? So
Right.
financially, that person is already losing out, and that's just one item that maybe they're buying. So throughout their entire basket of groceries, that could be an extra $20-$30 that they're missing out on, and that's just like a concrete example of
Yeah.
what could be happening. The same goes to when you're going to a doctor's appointment and the doctor says, okay, well, sign up online. We can book it online. But if you call us, there's a 2-hour wait to talk
Oh,
to a person. You got to go through the phone tree, and maybe the appointments are limited. You can only hear 2 or 3.
right.
So, that's just, there's so many things right now that we rely on technology for, which
Mhm.
in a way is good, but in a way it does leave people behind that can't follow up and can't do it.
So far behind. I mean, I feel like honestly, I'm 25 and I sometimes feel like I'm like I don't know how to do that. Like, what is that? I don't know how to function that technology. And like, I feel like the speed that technology moves at is exponential, not necessarily linear. So it's like there's 10 more things that there were yesterday and there's going to be 20 more things tomorrow. And it's just, yeah.
Totally.
But you know, let's kind of get real with this though. How do we actually solve this? Like, are there any practical steps that you can think of that families and companies can start taking today to get to lessen that divide a little bit?
I think overall, when technology companies specifically talking to them, when they're building apps and they're building products, I think it's important for them to realize, is this actually helping a situation where they might have thought, well, this is helping. I'm going to make products cheaper for my consumers while understanding their habits.
Mhm.
Or is this actually making it worse? Actually
Mm,
making them disconnect.
mhm.
I read somewhere where a lot of the theme parks, right? Everything is on apps now, where you book your wait and time on apps for the
Right,
lines and you buy food, but then it's taking away from the fact you're actually in a theme park and you're looking out and enjoying yourself.
right.
So I think we have to solve for, as a society,
Uh-huh.
where technology does not go away from that human experience. The human experience still has to be on top of the list, and technology should solve for things that we don't want to do. It should solve for waiting in line at the DMV. It should
Yeah.
solve for doing the mundane things that we don't want to do.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I saw this thing the other day where it was like, I don't want technology to like, do my work for me so that I can go get my laundry done. I want technology to get my laundry done for me so that
Exactly.
I can do the creative work that I want to be doing and like
Exactly.
talking to the people that I want to be talking to. And that's so, so true because, I feel like a lot of the times, like even like with AI, like I have such a love-hate relationship with AI.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's great and it's so practical and has so many great uses. And even for older adults, like if taught well, like AI can like even just like a regular like chat GPT. Like I'm a 75-year-old and I have these dietary restrictions and I have been experiencing like knee pain here. Like and I have these ingredients in my fridge right now. Like, what can I make for dinner tonight? Like
Yeah.
something like that is so amazing and like helps in such great ways. But then also you see all of this stuff where, first of all, the environmental impact of it is something that is a whole nother, like thing in and of itself, but also, scams and like the lack of protections that are in place. And again, just how this fast it's moving, we don't even know what impact it's going to have long term.
Absolutely.
So it's really important to just, again, make sure that human experiences remain human and that we keep people at the center of everything. So I want to pivot towards a little bit more of, support options for families and, your work as a care manager and enable and things like that. So it can get really, really overwhelming. There's geriatric care management, there's home health, assisted living, memory care, adult daycare centers, independent living. How do you even begin to navigate all of this? And like, what's the first step? What's the second step? Is
Yeah.
there a first step that can be used for everybody, or you just
Well, so I think first and foremost, it's always good to take a step back. Not everybody needs all the things, right?
Yeah.
Most people, if they're thinking about retirement or something, they're not automatically going to be looking into like adult daycare. Like they're very extreme. So I think it's always important to take that step back.
Yeah.
Understand from an expert. I would say this is a part where maybe don't chat GPT it, because chat GPT doesn't understand the whole spectrum of things sometimes.
Right.
And
Right.
it is different also based on where you live, and you want to look into your finances as well. These things are not cheap. So I would say take a step back first, talk
Yeah.
to an expert. Not putting a plug for us, but talk to a geriatric care manager. There's not just Enable, but there's so many great ones around the US. ALCA is a great organization that kind of list a lot of them. So if you're in a different area, definitely reach out to them. Talk and understand what the problem is. As a geriatric care manager, we always like to sit before we start helping. We always sit down and understand what's going on right now. Where are we right now? What are all the different things we want to look at? And we kind of tackle it one at a time. And that's why we always say, don't do it in crisis. Because when you're in crisis, the number one thing you're trying to do is get out of crisis.
Yeah.
But when you're not in crisis, we can actually ask the important things of like, what's your favorite ice cream? What's your favorite color?
Yeah.
Because that should be where you want to head towards. It's about that happiness, right? Like it's not just about getting somebody in a hospital or getting them out or getting them in a facility or getting home care. It should be about what is the best path in order to be the most happiest.
I think that that's such a good point, because when you're kind of in that fight or flight, there's like everything is kind of like red, and there's no, like, you're more likely to make decisions that you may regret later on and be like, wait, I didn't actually need to move mom into memory care right now. Like that wasn't like a necessary step to take. And I also see it all the time as well, where people like do something and then like 2 months later, when they've had some space and time to like think about it, they're like, nope, gonna not do that actually. And you can save yourself money, sanity, and like a lot of headache. Happiness. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. By just sort of taking that breather. And yeah, maybe the first step is a lot of places have like free consultations as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Absolutely. We actually run a support group called Champions of Chaos. So if anybody listening would just like to pop in, talk to a geriatric care manager and just kind of get a feel for things, that is a no-cost option. There's a lot of area agencies on aging. Every county has one. They have, I know in California it's a 211 number, but different resources are always available to older adults and their family members. It's not always the older adult that's looking for help, but it could be their family.
Champions of Chaos. I really love that name. That might be my favorite support group name that I've heard of, because that's so true. And support groups, gosh, so important. These are resources that are available everywhere, like in almost every single place. And if you can't make them in person, then there's so many online ones available as well. And it's the power in numbers and just knowing, because what is it? I just recently, because I usually say 1 in 6 Americans are family caregivers, but I recently learned that it's 1 in 4.5 now.
Yeah,
So there are so many people in the same boat as you, just not really talking about it necessarily. And
Absolutely.
you're not alone at the end of the day. This care is something that's going to touch every single human being at some point in their life, whether they're a care recipient, a caregiver, or, love someone who is a caregiver or a care recipient. It's just, yeah. So it's definitely something that is there for you. And it's something that you should take advantage of, even if you feel like you don't have the time to, just try.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I love this whole champions of chaos thing. So from your perspective, why is it important to build community? Like, why is that something that family caregivers, especially, should sort of partake in and participate in?
I think it's again a lot about that human connection.
Yep.
It's something that, while you can ask a prompt to ChatGPT and get a response of you should do one, two, and three,
Mhm.
sometimes the family caregivers that we speak with, they might even know that answer themselves. They
Mhm.
know it might be time to talk about memory care, it might be talk about facilities, but the human connection is the most powerful thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's hearing it from an outside perspective. Sometimes it's having that bouncing wall to somebody to talk to and
Absolutely.
agree with you or not agree with you even. um, and that is something that's really, really important in the world of caregiving, I would say, and even in the world of gerontology in general. Whether it's that older adult that kind of knows what's coming up, might have gotten a diagnosis, or has a fall, or is having limited mobility, having somebody to talk to and acknowledge, I
Mhm.
get it. This is hard.
Yeah.
This is not easy, but
Yep.
let's make the best of the situation. Let's see what we can do to move forward.
You are not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. I will say that. I will scream it from the rooftops. Your position is really, really unique. Again, given that you have both that experience and expertise and education in tech and leading tech companies, and of course now running care management. Um, so, where do you think technology is truly helping families, and where should they cut it out because it's just making things too complex?
I think it would really just go back to that human connection. I think technology is really great in terms of like data, and without technology, data is, it's just piles of numbers. When I first took my statistics class, we had to do things the old-fashioned way of literally by hand. Doing stats is not fun, and now
Mm,
you can use computers to just kind of put in spreadsheets and get pretty graphs. So
yep.
I like to use that example in real life as well. Uh,
Yeah.
if it's data and it's mundane and it's numbers, and it's making, putting files together, putting your will together, putting trust together,
Mm,
all of that is great to house online and use technology.
yeah.
Technology is great for communication. When you want to talk to a doctor and you can't get an appointment, you can
Yeah.
speak to a virtual doctor pretty much instantly these days. But that human touch is where technology is not the best to supplement.
Yeah. That
Uh,
makes sense.
yeah.
That
So
makes
times people say, well, having a virtual appointment is horrible. Like, I want to go see a doctor.
mm,
Absolutely. Seeing a doctor is always going to be 100 times better. But it's not a one or the other. It should
right.
be, if I can't physically go see a doctor, the second best thing is to have that virtual appointment.
It's so important, especially for people who are maybe in more rural areas as well, or people who may not have that direct access because, like, again, totally on the same page about the whole like human connection. But if the technology is able to enhance that human connection, that's where we've like kind of really hit the gold um, with that. Because a lot of the times, the closest neurologist is a 3-hour drive away.
Exactly.
And, of course, you'll go for your annual visit and like when you need to, but there's an emergency happening and you need to talk to them this week. And there's just no way that you're going to be able to get mom who has dementia and hates car rides in a car for 3 hours and kind of
Right.
do that. So that's when you use that. Medication management, I feel like, is another great one where
Mhm.
technology can be used and, like even like remote monitoring, making sure that, mom is okay and got out of bed
Mhm.
today. You can't be
Yeah,
there in person.
absolutely. Does it replace a caregiver? No, it doesn't.
Absolutely
But
not.
if a caregiver can't be there and cannot do that reminder,
Mhm.
it's better than not having anything.
Exactly, exactly, and that's what I always like to think of technology as, is like a last resort or something that's there in case
you need it. Yeah.
Exactly, 100%. So, uh, I'd love to talk about a little bit more about your research specifically and sort of like the questions that you're asking and things like that. What is one thing that you wish the whole industry would understand from specifically the work that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so a big cornerstone of my research is understanding the attitudes and perceptions of older adults as they use technology
Mhm.
and in their daily lives currently. And it's twofold. One is to to again um, understand how much they need to be considered in the design elements of
Mhm.
technology.
Mhm.
And two is to understand, is this actually helping, right?
Mm.
Is this actually beneficial or is it causing more chaos and
Right.
more harm than good? And where are we, and hopefully the research will also let us know, where are we leaded towards? Are
Mm.
older adults being more accepting of it? And maybe we need to focus on having better technology, or is it better to scrap it all together? And I know that's not going to happen, but as a researcher, I have to come, completely unbiased and understand what is actually happening and have the data speak to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, That's such an important question. And never mind. I'm not even going to ask this because this is the worst question to ask a PhD student. But
Oh
I
no.
look forward to the day that you get your PhD because I'm going to read all of your research and learn all about it. And we're going to work together to make the aging space amazing and in terms of technology. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I know our audience is eager and has some questions for us as well. But for families who are listening right now, feeling overwhelmed by caregiving or just watching their parents struggle, what do you want them to walk away with from this conversation?
First and foremost, that they're not alone.
Yeah.
It may seem like they're in a world where nobody else understands,
Mhm.
but in reality, there's a lot of people out there that understand, and there's a lot of experts in this field
Mm.
that would be happy to hold their hand and kind of walk them through it.
Mhm.
There is a path. You might not be able to see it, but it's about kind of decluttering all the different problems and the situations, and having that path not necessarily lead to a specific goal, but it
Mm.
could just be for happiness, right? If somebody has only 2 weeks to live, it shouldn't be about what can we do, what are the meds that we can pump out, what's happening.
Mm.
Let's just take a step back and focus on that quality of life. And
Yeah.
it could be for 5 days, it could be for 10 years.
Mhm. Mhm.
What is that gonna, and that's for all of us. It could be there for the next 50 years.
Right.
What does that path look like in terms of reaching happiness? And
Mhm.
it's fine to ask for help. It's completely fine to ask for help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, again, I know we're throwing a little bit of shade at the men today, but I
No,
really want
we're
I
not.
really want our specifically our male audience to take that to heart because I see it so often that it's like a lot of the times it's harder for men to ask for help in these situations and instances. And I really, really want everyone to know that it's so okay. And it's help is something that we will all need at some point in our lives. And it's, if anything, it's a sign of strength to recognize and show that, hey, I'm not, a, I'm feeling these feelings and I need to, kind of get that support that I need. So, yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of supporters in the comments. I guess did not read these live by any means. I was abroad in our conversation, didn't even notice these coming in. But yes, yesterday, absolutely. So we agree that care management is very, very important. And yes, transportation as well. Also, very, very important thing to take into consideration. We have a question about how a lot of innovation today focuses on AI and automation in caregiving. From your perspective, where does technology genuinely help older adults and caregivers? We kind of talked about this, but let me know if you have anything to add here. Help older adults and caregivers, and where does it risk making things worse if we're not careful? Do you have anything to add?
I think with AI, AI is pulling things from the internet.
Mhm.
So I think it's always important to know, don't let AI make decisions for you.
Mm.
Use AI with your own knowledge, right? And ask it, oh, what's the best way to do this thing with, these parameters? Always give it parameters rather than having it go to the World Wide Web and just choosing anything and everything.
Yep.
I like you said earlier, using AI to say what's a good meal to make when I have these 5 ingredients in the fridge.
Mm.
But I recently just read an article that said now recipes online are doing AI and they don't even make sense, or they can't actually be cooked because they're made from different ingredients with different AI models together. So
Oh my gosh, the AIs are confusing each other now.
exactly. So I think it's important to not use it as your sole form of information and education. Don't really use it for education.
Yeah.
Use it as a tool along with your own knowledge.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Another one here that we kind of was a common theme, older adults are often treated as a single user group.
Yes.
What nuances do builders and policymakers most often miss when designing for aging populations?
I think they like to focus on segments, and they focus on the 65 and above, or the
Mhm,
85 and above,
mhm.
or those with dementia. I think that's like the biggest misconception, and it drives me absolutely wild as a gerontologist is when people confuse the word dementia with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, and dementia itself can be so varied.
Mhm.
It's a category of symptoms,
Yeah.
and while they typically follow that same trend, it's not all the same. So when builders and policymakers make rules and products for older adults, I think it's really important not to clump things together. Figure
Yep.
out what you're solving for and then solve for that thing.
Yeah, and you don't need to solve for every single older adult. Sometimes you just need to be solving for a specific group of older adults as well. So yeah.
Yep.
Um, But yeah, I'm still thinking about this point too, but, someone mentioned how they hadn't considered that this new digital coupon trend is completely disregarding older adults. Um, Honestly, it's disregarding me too because I don't really like
I hate
downloading.
that too. I absolutely hate downloading a new app just because I'm in a
Yes,
certain store, but sometimes you have to because you want to get the 10% off.
right, and sometimes they make it's like it's sick and I didn't notice this at first, like, I didn't notice that this was the thing, like, it was just like, "Oh," like, you know, I think it was Harris Teeter that I went to, and I have, like, a VIC card, a very important customer, like, whatever, and I'm like, "That should be enough for me to get the discounts that you have at the
Right,
store. Why
right.
didn't I download this app?" But I went up and I, like, my total was, like, 10 or $15 more than I expected it to be, and I was like, "Oh, I thought all these things were on sale," and she's like, "They are. You need to download the app," and I was like, "Oh." I have no storage on my phone. I will not be downloading an app. Thank you very
Exactly. And
much.
it's annoying, and sometimes you're like, "Well, I don't have reception here," and
Yeah,
to even get on the Wi-Fi, you have to get the app and you have to
yep.
an account.
Mhm.
So,
And
those
all of those
frustrating.
big grocery stores, I feel like, are dead spots for cell service for some reason.
Absolutely.
I don't
Yes.
know if that's just a thing here, but I feel like I've noticed it way too.
There's places in the Bay Area where there's 0 cell service, and you're
Yeah,
like, "You're in Silicon Valley. What's
yeah.
happening?"
Yeah. This is where technology lives. Um, but yeah, med management is a big one. And then we have one more question here about more practical ways that technology can help enhance the lives of our grandparents or aging parents that involve more than just them watching TV or calling and FaceTiming them.
Yeah, so I think technology or the internet can have so many different things. So instead of just consuming media,
Mm,
especially like TikTok or Instagram or
mm,
scrolling things, I
mhm,
think there's also this whole other education piece that's online, right? And I definitely encourage people to, look at the local universities, whether it's taking an online class instead of just consuming things, especially garbage sometimes,
mhm.
actually consume things that are educational, something that you learn, something that you can interact with. So there's so many groups out there. There's a group for everything, like every single possible thing you can think of in the world. There's a group for.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
instead of just kind of consuming Facebook as a whole,
Yep.
maybe follow a specific community of things that you
Mhm.
like and be a part of that and interact with that. Uh,
Mhm.
if there's something that you've always wanted to learn, there's so many different classes available, even for free, Khan Academy and different ones to learn something educational and kind of take it away from technology, if you will. So don't just kind of sit there and like get that, but then use that as a form of enhancing your life.
Yeah, Coursera is another one that
Exactly.
does the free courses. That's actually such a good point. And then also, like, I feel like nowadays there is like there's like it's social media isn't just Instagram, TikTok anymore. There's like so many different forms, like Substack even, where you can like kind of get more of that like long form
Mhm.
stuff, as well, where you're like advancing your self and your like brain and things like that further as well. And I think that that's really, really cool. And thank you for that suggestion. I will actually be taking that into consideration instead of just scrolling randomly. Like, why not join
Yeah.
groups and things like that? And, just another tip for caregivers, I feel like there's a lot of Facebook groups there as well for caregivers. And there's like millions of them out there, specifically like to your area, specifically for like, there's like FTD Facebook groups. There is like Alzheimer's Facebook groups. There's
Mhm.
like Parkinson's, like daughters of people with Parkinson's, sons of people with Parkinson's.
Mhm.
There's like, wives of people with
Yeah,
Parkinson's.
exactly.
You can find your niche and you can hopefully find human connection through your social media
Yep.
forms as well.
Yep.
We have someone agreeing that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. And we have a comment here.
Absolutely. And I don't want to say that men are not involved. I think men are just as involved in caregiving and in this field. And by me saying, adult daughter, that again does not mean that there's not adult. Even our team has some great men on our
Yeah.
as care managers. But again, I was just speaking statistically as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
but in no way dismissive of the men that are doing all the work out there.
Ditto everything that Bevi just said. And, as you mentioned in here, there are many families without females around. And therefore, the men need their own pathways of support to aid and assist. And we as a country and as a whole could just do more to support our caregivers, period. Like there is not, oh, excuse me, I think something we can all agree upon is that there's not nearly enough support out there for family caregivers.
And
And
there's support groups specifically for men as well. Like we
yeah,
were talking about technology and Facebook. There's specifically support groups that are catered towards men,
mhm,
which maybe even be beneficial for them versus
mhm.
a more traditional one that has mixed parties.
And also, I would love to direct you to my previous podcast with Dr. Peter Abadir, who's a geriatrician at Johns Hopkins University and 7 other titles. But one of his passions is sort of empowering male caregivers and sort of creating spaces for them as well. So there's so many great resources in there as well if you're interested in listening, or for any of our audience that's listening right now. But I have kept Bevi longer than I needed to, and as I always do, I'm so sorry. But this was so invigorating, and I had such a wonderful time getting to know you better and sort of hearing your perspective on these things. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to be here with me today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is fun.
I hope you had as much fun as I did. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful, wonderful new year. And hopefully 2026 is the year that caregiving issues finally make it onto the ballot. And that, the advocacy continues. And again, we're all in this together.
Thank you.
But thanks for being here. Hope everyone has a lovely rest of their day. And yeah, bye, y'all.
Bye.